To First Edition. Well, let's try this again. We're going to bring the Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, back with us. He was just talking about the instant asset write-off scheme, but it must be too cold where you are, Treasurer. It's frozen the link for us, but we'll try it again. So you were talking about the fact that businesses could go and get a pizza oven, or they could get a coffee machine, or whatever,
sure,
up to the space of about $150,000, right? So for those who aren't aware of it, can you explain very simply what businesses can do to get that money back?
Well, firstly, you have to be a business with a turnover of less than $500 million, and you can use this instant asset write-off multiple times. And it is for goods that are purchased up to $150,000, and then it's written off your tax bill. So, of course, it's of great benefit to businesses because they may be I've put off a purchase for some time because normally they would need to depreciate it over a number of years. But now that they can do it all in year one, it makes it a lot more tax effective for these businesses to go out and get that equipment, and that will help the economic activity across the economy.
So this scheme has been in place for some time. Why are you extending it?
It has.
Is it because the take-up has been slower than you might have originally thought?
Well, we've actually had very strong take-up. Hundreds of thousands of businesses have used this program in the past, and in last year's budget I announced that it was extended to businesses for a purchase of more than $30,000. But what we did in the first tranche of the stimulus package in relation to the COVID crisis was to extend it for purchases up to $150,000, and that was a very significant change. We also increased the number of businesses that were available to get it, and what we want to do now at a time when people are getting back to work and maybe demand is a bit slower than it was pre-crisis is to encourage businesses to go out and to grow and to invest and to hire, and this is one of the measures to do just that.
Are any figures available yet on what the take-up has been since it had risen to $150,000?
No, not as yet, because we're not at the end of the financial year. Once we're at the end of the financial year, we'll be able to get those numbers. But extending it to the end of this calendar year will be seen as a very welcome move by businesses right across the country.
Okay, well, so what you're basically trying to do is you're trying to get businesses to spend, but for so many businesses, the money is just not there at the moment.
Well, that's right. For a number of businesses, it is very tough, but businesses are not just looking at today, they're looking at tomorrow, and they're looking at the restrictions being eased, people getting back to work and getting back to their normal lives and economic activity as it was. And so that this initiative has a view to the future, and it's encouraging businesses to take that next step, to buy the equipment or the tools that they need, and to help them grow, help us become more productive as a nation as well.
Just on the home builder announcement from last week, Treasurer, have you got any information yet on how many people might be looking to take that up?
So say that again.
Your home builder announcement, yeah, bear with us, folks. We look like we got some connection issues here again. But your home builder announcement that you announced with the Prime Minister last week, has there been any information that's come to you about how many people might be looking to take that up?
Well, the Housing Industry Association, the Property Council and others not only welcomed this, but they've also been saying in recent days that there has been an increase in the level of activity and interest. I've been speaking to home builders over the course of the weekend, and certainly their activity has picked up in just a few days since the announcement. We saw on the Treasury website more than 50,000 hits just on that day alone that the initiative was announced, as people want to get more information. So I'm confident that this will be used by the people who need it, and importantly, it will help again stimulate the activity for our vital construction sector.
Just on to a few other issues before we lose this link, Treasurer. Childcare help is phasing out. Is this the beginning of the winding back of other sectors?
Well, in terms of JobKeeper, we're doing a review at the midway point over the course of this month, and we'll announce the outcomes of that review when we provide an economic and fiscal update on the 23rd of July. With respect to the childcare announcement made yesterday by the Minister, when we put in place the package of support, it came at a time, Pete, when the viability of our childcare sector was threatened, and we needed to provide additional support to ensure that many the support we needed at across the economy and community at that time. Our support package has worked. 99% of childcare businesses remained operational, which was a good thing. But now that the coronavirus curve has been flattened, people have started to get back to work. We've seen an increase in demand. Demand is around 74% of what it was pre-COVID, and we're phasing in with a transition plan the changes that we announced yesterday, including easing the activity test. So if your income was affected by the coronavirus or you're still out of work, you will receive that additional support, provided you meet the criteria.
Okay, just finally, Treasurer, just on these protests that have taken place on the weekend, I'm just wondering what you think about all of this. State governments have been accused of double standards when it comes to placing restrictions on businesses and whatnot, and then these protests are allowed to take place, these Black Lives Matter protests are allowed to take place. What's your view on this, particularly in your home state of Victoria, where fishermen in the Mornington Peninsula have been told to get off the pier because of restrictions, but then there's a protest that's allowed to take place?
Well, I think people are scratching their heads and asking, on the one hand, how can you not allow me to go to the pub in the numbers that we were previously, or go to a sporting fixture, or indeed go to work. But at the same time, thousands of people can gather, and I think that they are legitimate questions to be raised. I think it also reflects an unjustified complacency among certain parts of the community about the end of the coronavirus. We're not at the end of the coronavirus. In fact, we're very concerned about a second wave of cases, and everyone needs to be vigilant, everyone needs to be patient, and everyone needs to follow the medical advice. It has been a great success for our nation that we've all come together, those frontline health workers and the community at large, with governments across the geographical and political divides, to ensure that we flatten that curve. And now we're the envy of the world with what we've achieved. Let's not put that at risk. I understand the legitimate grievances that people have, and they want to demonstrate and to air their views, but there must be a better way. There needs to be a better way. We need to preserve the success we've had in flattening that curve.
All right. Now, the Prime Minister did promise the JobKeeper would last for 6 months. That promise had to be broken. Will there be more promises broken when it comes to JobKeeper, and how long it can be paid for?
Well, the commitment we gave to the Australian people was to ensure that we would provide the support that they needed to build the bridge to the recovery phase, and that is exactly what we're doing. What we've got here with the childcare sector is a transition to the system that existed pre-COVID, and it has been strongly welcomed by them. It's been strongly welcomed by the Childcare Alliance, by the Early Learning Council, and by other groups within the childcare sector. This is what they wanted, this is what we've delivered, and we're providing that additional support for people whose incomes have been affected.
Treasurer, thanks for bearing with us there. I appreciate it. We got you over 2 breaks today.
Thanks, Pete. All the best to you.
Talk to you soon. Well, New Zealand